Today's episode revolves around two letters. Can you guess them? You're watching Techstrong Gang. Happy Friday and Labor Day weekend from the gang. Yes, we are here to talk about AI, of course, its impact on jobs, IT spending, and what Silicon Valley is doing to back it politically in the upcoming 2026 midterm elections. But most importantly, we want to wish you and yours a safe and happy Labor Day weekend as we head into it. I'm John Swartz. I'm in Silicon Valley. I'm our senior content writer at TechStrong. I'm sitting in for our co-hosts, Alan Schimmel and Mike Vizard. And with me today are some of our best pundits. They're all great. Guy Courier, Kate Scarcella, and Jack Gold. And we're going to start off first with something that Alan wrote. It was kind of a Labor Day, or as Kate would say, unlabor. I think Jack said that actually, unlabor Day message about AI and the state of AI and its impact on jobs. And he said this in this commentary he wrote for Tech AI, and he talked about layoffs continuing to loom large, in part because of the specter of AI replacing human roles. And he cited a couple of statistics, all dreary, by the way. There's one tracker that found like 140,000 people, literally 140,000 people had been impacted by nearly 500 layoffs this year. More specifically, software engineering postings, job postings have dropped significantly, no matter how you look at it, under any time frame. AI-related job posts have plunged, and anecdotally, and even proven by data, there has been some numbers out about the college graduates in computer science, computer engineering, and a significantly higher unemployment rate or out of work rate among them. And we can get into that later. But first, Kay, you have some strong feelings about the Industrial Revolution and the phase that we're in right now. Maybe you could fill in what you're talking about earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that, John. So first, it's important to acknowledge the numbers. The numbers are real, and for many of us who have been in the IT field, it's concerning, without a doubt. But it's important to understand. So I talk a lot about the Industrial Revolution. Industrial Revolution 1.0 was literally the steam engine and the replacement of humans. I personally don't see the Industrial Revolution 5.0 like that. And I think it's so important because I still hear people talking about Industry 4.0. Industry 4.0, we're now on to Industry 5.0. And that started and was kicked off in 2020. And literally, it's about human machine teaming. It is about augmenting humans. It is so important that we embrace, and it's something that Alan put at the end of the article about embracing. We need to embrace AI. However, as we embrace AI, and I think it's like the next segment or a segment after, one of it talks about this doomsday. Yes. Is all this real? Yes. Are the numbers real? Is the potential of AI being dangerous real? Yes. But it doesn't have to be. We understand more now than we have because of history, because of how we have seen the industrial revolutions play out. And while this is new, we absolutely need to, as we move forward, just embrace and secure as we look at this. I mean, it's important. It's important that we embrace AI. It's important that we understand, because humanly, it is not possible for us as a person who has been in cybersecurity now for 20 years, looking at all those network logs, looking at all the different events that was coming into the SOC, to the security operations centers. It was not humanly possible for us to examine all these logs and not chase false positives. And one of the things that happened as we brought in these junior analysts, and we talked about this wild, exciting career in cybersecurity, and they would chase one false positive after another. They'd be like, really? This is what I signed up for? So, this is what we need AI for. And I'm just talking now. But hey, Guy, Jack, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think the impact of AI is real. I think in some cases it's been way overestimated. I'm not convinced that AI is going to replace all our jobs in the next few years. And I'm not convinced that it's even going to replace a lot of the entry-level jobs. I think some of what we've seen, the effect of job loss, has to do with the economy or the perceived belief that the economy is not going to be great going forward. So it's not just AI, but I think there are a couple of things that we need to think about when we talk about AI and job loss and Industry 5.0. In Industry 1.0, everyone said no one, with all the steam engines, we're not going to need labor anymore. We're not going to need people anymore. Guess what? That didn't happen. Didn't happen in 2.0. Didn't happen in 3.0. We change. We adapt, and I think that's going to happen. Yes, there are a lot of low-level, entry-level jobs that AI can do. They can't be created. AI does not create things. It regurgitates. It's really good at that. And so we need to be smart about how we define entry-level jobs and better deal with how we educate people coming into the workforce so that they can be augmented by AI, not replaced by it. And I think that's a real process that we haven't started yet. Or we haven't started very well yet, at least. No, that's number one. Number two is if AI takes all the entry-level jobs and we're not hiring entry-level people anymore, how do we get mid-level and high-level people? They come up through the ranks. AI is not going to do that for us. So there are a lot of issues around this. And Kate, I agree with you that we're in 5.0, maybe it's 5.5. I don't know what the number would be. But we need to think about what all of this means long term. And in fact, I think ultimately AI creates more jobs than it displaces, just as all technologies have in the past. So it's.
Can I ask you a quick question, Jack, about that? Like, what do you think the time frame is for that? Like, when do we see this transition from maybe initial job losses to job gains eventually?
I think we're going to see that in the next 1 to 2 years. I think we're already starting to see it in certain industries. I mean, think of all the jobs that AI has created at NVIDIA as an example, right? We're or at AWS or Google or whoever in the cloud space. So think about the high level programming that gets done in AI. That's not being done by AI itself in most cases. It's doing some low level stuff, but there's always software engineers that are looking over its shoulder and finding out what to do better. So I think we've already started that trend, but I think in the next couple of years, you're going to see a new. It's a process. It's not going to happen overnight, but we're going to see it happen.
I think it's important to make the distinction that Jack and Kate are making between the short-term effects and the general trend. We all say that to ourselves all the time, but nonetheless, especially when you're in the news and reporting business, you react to short-term news as if it's the long-term trend. So that's good. I am not as bullish as Jack is about the productivity gain, but that's mostly because I think we need to enter the whatever it's called trough of despair or something with AI. The other shoe has not yet dropped, really. And the longer it takes to drop, the worse it's going to be because AI is simulative. AI is not I. Actually, it's artificial. It's not intelligent. It learns through imitation, and it is literally trained to appear good and correct and truthful when in fact it's not necessarily. And I think many of the efforts to remove hallucinations involve essentially good old-fashioned programming, just maybe using prompt engineering rather than software engineering directly. Agents themselves are programmed, but what I'm getting at is the principle that it is another tool, which is the main point Alan was making, and Kate as well. This is yet another productivity tool, yet another way to move our activities, let's say, higher up, and to be more policy setters and providing guidance and all that stuff rather than doing the nitty gritty. I think that's true. I do think that eventually there will be human replacement type intelligence, actual intelligence. That's not this. And I also think, by the way, that when we start talking about artificial general intelligence, which is supposedly that, it might be general and it might be artificial, but it still won't be intelligence. This is all so much marketing and positioning that is unfortunately compounded by the fact that really AI is trained to look intelligent, even though it's not. So that leads us towards this situation, which will also be, let's call it medium term, where the world will turn against it. We'll have loom breakers like everywhere instead of just in a limited number of people whose jobs are being replaced. Ultimately, the long-term trend for AI as we see it now, generative AI, analytical AI, predictive AI, will be that productivity gain. This is not, maybe it's going to be 6.0 or something. I just think that 6.0, where we actually have independent action and intelligence that's artificially created, that's what's gonna, start creating widespread job loss, truly widespread, enduring job loss. We're not there yet.
Yeah, thank you. Well, go ahead, Kate. No, I was just going to say really quickly that I think Alan points out that AI, I'm not sure where he got the statistic, handles about 40 to 60% of mundane tasks. So that always makes me think that if that's the case, some people who are lesser performers might initially be impacted, and then eventually, but when AI is able to handle the higher level reasoning, then the higher producers might be worried. I'm sorry, go ahead, Kate.
Well, the only thing I was going to add or say with Guy, like I had a real problem accepting the term AI, artificial intelligence, and because I'm like, it's machine learning, it's supervised, unsupervised, and I really, but if we didn't talk about the term, then it was as if people almost didn't understand what we're talking about, right? And so there was an embracing of the term AI. And then I thought to myself, and when I just heard you say non-intelligence, I almost wondered if we should put like a small n I going forward as we talk about, AI and roll our eyes. So I appreciate the comments that we are not there yet. And it gives us time from a cybersecurity point of view to look at the large language models that are being used to help them to prevent from being poisoned. And they're being used. We have to look at this in order to secure it. I do think that there will be another jump, another industrial revolution, another industry. I couldn't imagine though that we would never become people that would just not do anything. I mean, that would be a hard piece of utopian. That would be it would be like the society that would be very difficult to embrace. And
It's been imagined. It's been written about. One popular example is oh boy. Now, of course, the name of the series, it was an Amazon Prime series and a book series by Corey, and I'm not remembering the name. That stinks. But it envisioned a future where there was somewhere between 50 to 70% unemployment. I don't remember, and people played games and lazed around and had children and what have you. And that's one. A different one. Other science fiction writers have written about a sharp reduction in population, with the remaining people doing maybe a higher level of play and direction because of all of these robotic slaves they have working for them. And then, of course, there are the doomsday robots take over everything and decimate us views. But I think it's easily imaginable. People who spend their entire lives, not necessarily really working, but being fed and doing things that they want to do at even a higher level than our current standard of living.
I almost wonder, right, too, if whether someone's job career, which used to be 40 or 45 years in many cases, would be reduced by the abilities of AI or abilities of super intelligence. I mean, just the larger impact.
I'm not sure that it's so much years as perhaps hours. I mean, I look at AI today as, and when I talk to people about it, I agree it's not all that intelligent, but I look at it as assisted intelligence rather than artificial intelligence, because that's really what we're dealing with right now. We're dealing with a nice computer program that knows how to help. By the way, also knows how to do harm. I mean, there was a case right now where OpenAI is being sued, I think. It was OpenAI for helping a kid figure out how to commit suicide. I mean, that's horrible. That's just absolutely horrible. One of the things we also need to learn that people don't talk about enough is that the AI programs we have right now are not always correct. I mean, they talk about hallucinations, but we're having a discussion here. I may not agree with what Guy or Kate says. I may not agree with you, John. I may not agree with an AI program, and I think that's totally valid and not really discussed appropriately in most organizations. So there is a lot to be improved, I guess would be a good way to put it, in this system. I don't know what the time frame is. I mean, everything gets accelerated. The more technology we have, the more acceleration we get. So it'll happen. I'm not sure it'll happen to the level that, Guy was talking about with some of the science fiction writers. We'll see. I can't see the population reducing, for instance, unless there's a mass disease that comes in and people are just going to stay home and have kids. I mean, that's just the way it is, especially if they're fed and they have a place to live. So,
and it was The Expanse, by the way. The Expanse was what I was trying to remember.
Okay. Yeah. So
it's a vexing situation. Right? Even when we get these conflicting messages. On one hand, we have NVIDIA and Salesforce telling us of these, envisioning these, millions, if not billions, of bots doing all these jobs, which makes me nervous. I mean, especially if I'm starting at a company. And then on the flip side, you have AWS CEO Matt Garman saying the idea of replacing junior employees with AI is the dumbest thing he's ever heard. So, these mixed messages, and then the press picks up on it and builds into the narrative. So if you're somebody who's seeking a job or already has one, you're a little bit paranoid. I mean, you're wondering what's going to happen because this is moving fast.
Can I provide a quick example that I think is illustrative of this situation? I think it's pretty clear that trucking jobs, driving, and especially everybody, like taxi or car service type jobs or Uber and Lyft type jobs are likely to disappear. So what happens to those people? They don't become higher level drivers where they're sitting there like monitoring, whatever Waymos and stuff like that. They go to another job and another occupation. There are job functions that will disappear or reduce drastically in number. And so where do they go? What happens in these industrial revolutions is a lot of disruption and pain, but ultimately people finding there are new occupations created and also ways for the same skill levels to be applied elsewhere. And I think the big scare is, what do you need paralegals for? What do you need, junior associates for, or what have you, when you can have or for that matter, junior coders who just graduated? What do you need them for when all those kinds of functions are being taken up by AI? So that's just a wider spread of the disruption.
Yeah. Oh, well, we're going to probably have to end it here. But I mean, this country and this economy has always been based on reinvention. But I think we've entered a cycle or a revolution where things are moving much faster than we ever seen them move before. And there's just a lot of doubt and anxiety and fear. But we'll find out. We'll be back in a moment.
Discover Techstrong Group, the epicenter of tech innovation. We're your go-to for reaching IT leaders and practitioners worldwide. Our secret? Impactful content that sparks awareness, engagement, and top-quality leads. With us, you'll access editorial websites, streaming videos, virtual events, custom content, analyst research, and more. Join our satisfied clients. Let's revolutionize your tech journey. Contact us today and tell your story to the world in the most powerful way with Techstrong Group.
Welcome back. We're going to talk a little bit about agentic AI and AI in general again, especially the context of this bubble talk we keep hearing about. While we're hearing that, and we're hearing it mainly perhaps from short sellers or even from some of the executives like Sam Altman who fear of a bubble coming. For now, that's not the case, and perhaps it won't be the case for several more years, because IT spending, especially through the adoption of AI agents, is booming. In fact, IDC came out with a 4-year forecast in which they said that figure of AI spending, especially on agents, would eclipse $1.3 trillion by 2029, signaling not only the acceptance of this autonomous workforce that we keep hearing about, but a transformative moment for enterprise IT budgets, especially when it comes to software and how it's used. Jack, I know you cover these types of reports and you've written a lot about this in the past. I'm wondering where you see the market going. Do you think this number maybe is too optimistic or realistic?
It's hard to tell, to be honest. I personally think it's a little bit too optimistic in discussions I've had in the industry, but I've been known to be wrong. And numbers are, future numbers are always hard to predict. My sense, though, is that while agentic AI is a real thing, it's going to be a while before enterprises can actually get a positive ROI from agentic AI. I mean, we've already seen reports about what was the number, 95% of the MIT report.
That was the MIT. That's the infamous MIT report. But although that one, if you indulge me, that one was kind of narrowed down and very nuanced. It was about immediate impact on a bottom line, and so it was, it's very early.
Yeah, and I don't agree with all of the conclusions either. But even if they're off by half, 50%, from an IT spending perspective, you don't invest billions of dollars if you don't get an improvement in your bottom line. So it's going to take longer, I believe, for agentic AI to take hold. It will take hold in certain areas. We're already seeing it, for instance, in customer support capabilities. We're seeing it in some lower level, even medical diagnostics, looking at x-rays, but there's still somebody overseeing what's going on there and making sure that it's real and it's not artificial. So it will happen. I'm not convinced that it's going to be as big a market. I still think there's a bubble coming. I still see echoes of Web 1.0, Web 2.0, Web 6.0 that never happened. So I think that there's going to be an issue with that. You can't continue to build out data centers. This is, NVIDIA just did their earnings yesterday. They had good earnings. But you can't have a 50% increase in data center build out every quarter forever. It just
eventually the math catches up to you always. Right.
That's right. And so that's the problem I have with trying to predict this. Now, having said all of that, there are also new companies that will come on board, just as we had in the past, that will have agents that are really useful. There will be some companies that don't, and they will quickly be discovered. And it will be very much an issue of how well I understand a particular role I have to solve. So for customer service, it's fairly easy. There was just a report, the name of the company escapes me right now, but there's a company that's using AI for 911 calls. And what they're basically trying to do is they're trying to filter out the real 911 calls where there's an emergency, where I need a doctor or, there's a big accident, from someone calling up and say, hey, there's a tree in my neighborhood that just fell, send somebody to fix it. You don't need to dispatch police for that kind of thing. Those are the kinds of agents that will work very effectively. How well agents will work diagnosing cancer from a blood sample, I don't know, but we'll see where that goes. But it's really hard to predict what the future is going to look like from where we are right now.
Boy, I have so much fun talking to AI when I'm trying to change a plane reservation. I can just imagine the fun I'm going to have when I witness a bike accident or something, and I have to talk to an AI. I was I was chagrined, dismayed, and kind of darkly amused by the IDC report and your coverage of it, John. I think it was your article. I was chagrined because unusually for IDC, it was a little impenetrable. It was kind of like, especially their press release, like walking through a maze trying to figure out what the real broad trend was here. I was dismayed because unlike almost every, IDC is a standard bearer for this sort of thing in the industry. Although I have to say, Futurum Intelligence, Futurum Research produces similar kinds of reports, and you should check them out. That's my company. But I was dismayed because I felt that there was something really tone deaf about this. I'm somewhat familiar with their methodology, but I think Jack is being really kind in talking about how there may be a little bit more optimism here than is warranted. And I was darkly amused because none of these reports ever predict the shoe dropping and the dip. They never do, because they're based on surveys where you have usually senior IT people saying where their spending shifts are going and where they're increasing and where they're maybe staying stable or decreasing. So I just looked at it again and I'm like, well, if the bubble bursts in 6 months or in 9 months, none of these reports is ever going to be predicting those because of.
Oh, they'll be forgotten by then. I was going to ask you this, Guy.
That's the dark amusement.
Yeah, this is my cynicism coming through. Is that when I see there's so many reports making so many projections, and often they're leagues apart from one another. I wonder if there's, this is kind of a sidelight, but I wonder if there's a perceived pressure within some of these places to come up with these estimates just to gain attention from people like me, or they.
Oh no, so definitely not IDC. That is IDC doesn't do that. If anything,
because I don't think that way about them.
No,
I think that way about others. Yeah.
They're conservative. I mean, you can put them on a par with the London School of Economics or with Harvard Business Review or what have you in terms of how careful they are with this. I just think that they fall into that double trap of like the dark amusement one, which is they're not really asking people like do you think that people will suddenly turn against AI, and if so, when, and that sort of thing. They don't ask you that. The other part of the trap is sort of treating overall IT spend without that sort of general perspective. I mean, what is what do I need to say again? Like agentic AI, it's an agent that uses AI. We've been creating agents forever. Agentic AI is a fancy term for a new way to program stuff, and the shifts in budgets come out of classic custom application programming and modification and into agentic AI development instead. That was the chagrin, was like I was trying to figure out, are they saying that overall IT spending is going up thanks to agentic AI? That seemed to be what they were saying, but the details they provided didn't support that.
Yeah, and they said it. They backed into it. I mean, they were trying to kind of, in a sense, protect themselves, but I understand where you're coming from. I had the same impression. It was equivocating a bit.
Sorry for interrupting, John. I think there's a bigger piece to this. I mean, where are they getting their numbers from? They're going to senior IT staff, and they're saying, 2 years from now, how much do you think you're going to be spending on AI, right? What IT person that you talk to today doesn't believe that they're going to be spending gazillions of dollars on AI in the future? Whether it's true or not, they all believe it, and they're all being pushed in that direction. The board of directors of your company are saying, why aren't you spending more money on AI? Because it's the future. So we have to be really careful when we look at these visionary types of numbers. And I agree with you, Guy. IDC is probably better than most, but they're still only as good as who they ask and what those people believe.
Yeah. And I agree with you, Jack. And on that point of view, I actually believe that we haven't seen what AI will do. And any term, AI that we want to put into it. What do we mean by this? I think we really don't have an idea yet. At the end of the day, we're riding this wave, and we don't actually see when it's going to, crash onto the shore. So it doesn't mean another wave won't come along, right? It just means that this wave that we're riding is, and we'll have to swim out and catch that wave as well. That's
Yeah. Quantum computing is next, right? That's my prediction. In a couple of years, we're going to see people saying we're going to spend $3 trillion on quantum computing in the next 3 years. Maybe. We'll see.
Well, I think our predictions, instead of being 2 years out, seriously have to be more like 3 months, 6 months. And that may just seem, ridiculous, right? But, that's what we're talking about. We're not, what is it? One internet year was, 10 years, 10 life years. Now I think with AI, we're talking, maybe 15, 20. We have to really change the way we think, the way that we're looking at things. We just need to almost throw the baby in the bathwater out. Let's try this again, So.
Yeah, the trouble is companies can't plan on 3 to 6 month windows, right? The reason these numbers come out is because companies want to know what they should be doing over the next 2 to 3 years so they can put in budgets in place. The VCs want to know who they should be investing in. I mean, there's a whole ecosystem around these numbers. So
but it used to be 5 years. It did. It used to be 3 to 5 years. When we were going out talking cybersecurity, do this, 3 to 5 years. Now it's 2 to 3. We got to shorten the cycle again. We in order for us to be competitive, we need to shorten this cycle one more time, I think.
Yeah, and in this age, all right, everything's moving, as we said often, things are moving faster. Maybe you think about shortening the product horizon or the revenue horizon for some of this stuff, and then coming back and then updating it, which would be useful.
Yeah,
we'll see.
The trouble with a 3 month though is, how do I determine an ROI? If I have to go out and spend $1 billion on new equipment, and it's only a 3 or 6 month life cycle, I've got to generate an awful lot of revenue to get an ROI on that. And that's a real challenge for most companies. Most companies still have equipment that's, they still have servers that are 5 to 7 years old. And they shouldn't, but they do.
Yeah, look at critical infrastructure. Trust me.
Yeah.
There's still Windows XP out there.
Yeah.
OS2 Warp isn't out there anymore.
It always appalls me when I get on an airplane. What are they doing behind the counter there? They're printing out on a dot matrix printer what that airplane is going to be doing over the next 6 months, or 6 hours. So yeah, it's like, okay,
I hear you and I see that and I understand. But those of us who love technology, don't we always want the latest and greatest? I mean, I want the new phone. I really do. I'm I want the new gadget. I do anyway. I'm horribly that type of human, but yes.
Well, and the truth now, if you look at the statistics, you talk about phones, people are keeping smartphones much longer now than they ever did.
Yes. Yeah. The product. Yeah. The life cycle's longer. Well, this is, there in a valley here of uncertainty. And one thing that's certain, if we're going to see more of these reports, we're going to see more hyperbole. And as Guy pointed out, we're probably not going to see any type of nod to the impact of a potential bubble or a downsize in the market. So something to keep in mind. But I think we better move on to AI and super PACs in our next
Well, if
segment.
I may though, John, I do want to say, I don't think IDC is indulging in hyperbole here.
Okay.
The problem I had with it is how difficult it is to peel back what exactly it is that they are saying.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I misstated that. I mean hyperbole in terms of other reports.
That's right. I think maybe the press folks are getting a little hyperbolic in order to get attention on the press release.
That's what we're paid to do. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, it's all good. But we're going to come back and talk a little about super PACs and some of our friends in tech who are backing these pro AI candidates and issues when we come back in a moment.
SecurityBoulevard.com is the leading resource for news, analysis, and education on challenges facing the cybersecurity industry. SecurityBoulevard.com covers all aspects of cybersecurity, including data security, DevSecOps, cloud security, application security, network security, security threats, and more. SecurityBoulevard.com has the largest selection of security content, featuring breaking news, blog posts, podcasts, and more. Visit www.securityboulevard.com to learn more. SecurityBoulevard.com, home of Security Bloggers Network.
And we're back, and we're going to talk about AI super PACs. So folks like Meta, Andreessen Horowitz, and some tech executives from OpenAI, I believe Airbnb and others are looking into backing pro-AI super PACs to support candidates in the 2026 midterms, oppose strict regulation in states, especially like California, and counter this kind of rising national narrative of AI doomers who are warning of the dangers of technology. So I'll mention just a couple of them, then I'll throw it out to our panel. The first one is called Leading the Future, which was created this month. Their idea is to influence races in Congress and support AI influencers, especially OpenAI. They've thrown $100 million into financial support into things like pushing back on legislation, backing candidates who are especially keen to AI. And then we have Meta, which has created something called the Mobilizing Economic Transformation Across PAC. And that's ahead of the state's governor's race.
Seriously?
I am serious. Yes.
What is it
Yes.
with these long names for bills and everything else? I mean,
I know,
it's for Meta.
Elon Musk seems intent on putting the word sexy in, like,
Yes.
you know,
I thought of Tesla
anything
when I
that
saw
he
that.
can touch. And I think, you know, Mark Zuckerberg is probably sitting there going, well, the whole Meta thing didn't work, but I'm going to just keep pushing at it. And eventually it's been a light on fire.
We can talk about that too. But I think there are 50 AI related bills that have been introduced in California this year based on some research from the National Conference of State Legislatures. So in a sense, it was inevitable. There was going to be lobbying. There always has been for tech. It's just gotten more savvy and they're spending more and they have more influence and they're willing to work with this administration in many ways, shapes, and forms. But I'm wondering, Kate, I'll start with you. What do you think of the concept of a pro-AI super PAC?
the only problem that I have is, well, not the only, but one of many, is that I worry that we don't have a democratization when we start to funnel money into different candidates. I think we will start to lose objectivity, which is often what we see with PACs when we become so, focused. And I personally worry about our democracy. I worry about what I'm seeing today, quite frankly. I know Alan's not here to really get in on this, which I know he has strong opinions, but I worry about putting money into something that we don't have a good handle on yet. We don't know where this is going yet. And, so yeah, I have some great concerns around that.
Most industries throughout history have done or tried to do legislatively what was good for them, not necessarily what was good for us, right? I mean, think about how many years the automotive industry fought catalytic converters and unleaded gas. Tobacco, another great example, right? We don't know yet what the regulations for AI should be, let's be real, but there have got to be some regulations, just as there are in financial systems, just as there are in many other things. And so my concern with having these PACs is that, as Kate rightly said, they're going to throw money at candidates who are going to be incentivized to back off and not do anything. And not doing anything is as bad as doing too much, in my opinion, and perhaps even worse. And so I think when we start talking about PACs, until we actually see what they believe, because there are PACs on all sides of things, right? Left, right, middle. we'll have to see where it all goes. And by the way, the Meta pack with Meta, I'm guessing that Mark just asked AI to come up with something that said Meta as a name for a pack. It's
That's funny.
Yeah,
That's
ask
funny.
Llama. I feel like channeling Alan and saying, this is what it's
Go
really all
ahead.
about.
No, he'll
No,
appreciate-
I can't do Alan right now. Because I think with all due respect, Kate and Jack, you are not sounding enough of an alarm here. This is why? Because AI is not like your other, it's not like your catalytic converters. Why is it not? Because it is very difficult for the general population and frankly for the elite to understand what AI is. It is a simulation. And I keep saying this over and over again because it is literally the design point for generative AI, which is the most common form. The design point is to fool you. That's the design point. Does the output during the training cycles resemble all the previous types of outputs on the internet ever, forever, whatever the data set is? And the internet forever is what is OpenAI's real contribution to all of this. So why does that make a difference here? This is an extremely dangerous area to be unregulated. Extremely dangerous. I'm not in favor of a lot of regulation, but simple things like provenance and transparency not being regulated means that people using it include. I'm not convinced that Sam Altman knows what AI is. I'm not convinced that Mark Zuckerberg.
I think he's admitted that in small drips and drabs over the last.
Right. So
year.
I'm just saying, like, the people guiding this. So, and the combination here of this almost completely, almost complete opacity in being able to understand in general what AI is, combined with the insane. I mean, I don't want to say this saved Meta, but it's looking like it saved Meta. I mean, I have one of the most commonly used models out there, and Facebook, which still is the main revenue engine for Meta, just has an aging user group and a lot of competition and so forth. I've been wondering what would happen with them. So, and never mind, like, the gajillions in wealth being built by NVIDIA alone, even though it has competitors.
Yeah, but
my point is, when you put those two together, there's tons and tons of money to be made by just letting these folks just keep doing what they're doing. That's dangerous.
Facebook is not making any money with their AI stuff. I mean, all the money is still coming.
No, I'm saying Meta.
I'm sorry, Meta. But where, if you look at the revenue generation from Meta today from an AI perspective, it's negative. They're spending gazillions of dollars. When they just announced a deal with Google. What was it? $20 billion?
$10 billion. Yeah, $10 billion. I
mean,
yeah, no, they've also, though, I think in their earnings report, they did mention that they were going to stop this hiring binge, or they're going to slow it down. But that's an acknowledgement. I mean, the amount of money they were spending was outrageous. But you're right.
I think you want to look instead of their profitability at Mark Zuckerberg's personal worth and Meta's market cap and that sort of thing, which is be built on vapor, but that is an old tradition at this point in technology, future earnings and all that sort of thing. So, I just think the combination of all of this personal wealth, let's put it that way, personal wealth and stock valuation opportunity in AI, with how impenetrable AI's actual workings are.
It's even scarier than that, Guy, because what if...
Oh, good. Go for it.
Well, imagine, in my science fiction mind, some terror group, I don't know, whatever, some group, gets a hold of a major model that's being used by millions of people and decides to weight it towards, pick your favorite thing, Nazism, communism, totalitarianism, whatever. And people are using this. And there are no regulations in place to, one, let people know, users like us, that this is taking place, or two, to stop it. There can be some real damage. Imagine, I actually thought about once writing a little short story, scientific short story about AI taking over schools. There's a shortage of teachers. What if we put AI in as teachers for our, kindergartners through 8th grade or something? And we had a model built that decided that they were going to indoctrinate these kids with, pick your favorite. I don't want to pick on necessarily the political climate right now, but, that's a good one, right? What's to prevent that from happening? We have no regulations against that. And it could easily happen if there aren't some regulations. So I agree with you, Guy, that maybe I'm being, and Kate as well, being too optimistic. I don't want to have overregulation, but we need to have something in place. And frankly, it's more likely to come from Europe than it is to come from the U.S. in the short
It
term.
always is. The U.S., in terms of tech policy, we're absolutely pathetic. But I was going to ask one thing. I'm running out of time, but I was going to mention this scenario. You know how candidates would run on issues like the economy and crime? Could you imagine in 2026, if you're running, say, in Ohio or Texas or Pennsylvania, you're an advocate for data center growth there, and looking for a handout from big tech? These might be the placeholders or the pawns of Silicon Valley in the future.
And the one thing I do worry about with money and PACs and everything is, I believe in free markets. How free is free markets if we're putting all this money into these candidates who will, do whatever AI people want? We really, are we going with the best technology at that moment? I don't think we are. And
yeah, well, yeah, that's a good way to kind of wrap it up and conclude things. Hey, we're out of time. I want to thank all of you. You guys are great as always. Thank you for being on today's show, and we'll see you on future episodes. We want to thank the audience for watching. We want to wish them a happy holiday, 3-day weekends. And we hope you stick around and watch Techstrong TV. We have lots of great programming here. And for Alan and Mike, who will be back very soon, this is John Swartz signing off.